We left all our stuff up in Baltimore. Came down here, got a furnished place in Tierra Verde. Spoiled ourselves for about 8 or 9 months. It was just wonderful. And I now live in Southampton. About 3 years ago, I started what I call the Keep Mark Off the Plane campaign. And so when I first moved here, I just needed to be close to a great airport, and Tampa Airport is terrific, so I just flew out of there. I've been very, very blessed to have lots of various clients. I've always been committed to helping both small and large businesses. I tell my large clients that they subsidize my small ones. They actually love it, actually. So I gave some thought to it once, why they like it so much. And I think they like it for 2 reasons. One is I think they really like the help. And the other one is the guy I'm talking to, who works for a big corporation, is thinking he's going to have his own small business one day, and he'd like to hire me to help him. So, and that actually has happened from time to time, so it's really kind of cool. So I want to recognize 3 resources that I've used that really have helped either build or launch my business. Some of them you have probably heard of, some of them you haven't. Anybody here a Steve Covey fan? Sure. Yeah. So I've had a really unique privilege, and what I thank Steve Covey for is structure. He takes what we all know and puts it in a nice clean box, and it really is easy to execute. I had the opportunity, I was working with a national client who actually does parking for a living. So when you go to a hotel or resort like Disney, which they handle actually, it's not really Disney or Hyatt people parking your car, it's this other company. Well, they had engaged the Steve Covey organization to help their management team. Their management team was 105 people. And if any of you have done this, they have something called Go to the Mountain. Anybody familiar with that? You go to the mountain and you meet with Steve Covey. It's not inexpensive, especially when you have 105 people that go to the mountain. I have to be consulting with them, and the owner came, and I was a Steve Covey fan before this, right? He comes to me and says, Mark, I need to make a request. I said, what's that? He says, well, we have this thing, go to the mountain. We're going to spend 10 days with Steve Covey. We're going to take the whole group. Would you like to go? I was like, okay, I'll go. So I had the privilege of actually working. He wasn't there for the entire 15 days or 10 days it was, but he was just a tremendous, impactful person. And all the things that he teaches showed up at the right time in your life. You know, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. He appeared a few times. So I want to thank him for the structure. Those of you that haven't read the ACE Success Factor should. Those of you that haven't read Principle-Centered Leadership, you should. So those of you that haven't read 4 Distinctions of Performance, you should. Or Execution, I think it's called. Okay? The second person, which you probably don't know, is Raymond Blank. And I'm going to thank him for wisdom. Now, Raymond Blank generated the first credit card. I didn't see him because of that, right? He actually interviewed me for a client 20-some years ago. And at the interview, he said, tell me about yourself. I spent about 5 minutes. I told him all my things I do and what I know. And he said, you want me to tell you about you? So I was like, what? He said, you want me to tell you? So he spent 20 minutes telling me about my whole life like it was in my pocket the entire time. So he continued to interview me, and I said, listen, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'd like to stay in contact with you. He said, okay. I actually did get the gig, okay, and he was involved there as a senior consultant, and I was a junior guy, right? And we began a relationship, and probably about 5 years later, I made a request that he be my mentor, and he said, I'll think about it. So he thought about it for a little while, and he said yes. So I had the marvelous opportunity to be with this guy who thinks at a level that I don't see very often, who brings what we call Rayisms into my life. His name is Ray Blank. He passed away about 3 years ago. And so I've taken the charge to mentor other people. And so he was just wonderful. There's probably not a lot about him on the internet. He was one of those secret formula guys, right? But he was a gatherer of friends around the world, and he just made a difference everywhere. And for those of you that don't have a mentor in your life, I would suggest that you highly spend some energy there and go get it. After I lost him, I decided I needed to find one. It wasn't easy to replace him, right? But I did find someone who appeared to be the guy I wanted, right? His name was Mel. So I said, Mel, I'd like you to be my mentor. And he said, you don't even know me yet. I said, I know, but I have a feeling. He said, let me think about it. So about 3 months went by. He didn't say anything. I guess he doesn't want to be my mentor. And I would see him, you know, regularly. He finally says to me, Mark, I made a decision on being your mentor. I said, oh, great. He said, I don't think I want to. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, I'd rather be your client, which was a nice thing. I helped him for about 8 months, and then we decided to mentor each other. So I have that blessed relationship in my life now, too. So spend some energy doing it, okay? It's funny how we give up when we lose something in our lives. My mentor introduced me to his father one day. His name was Harry. So I said, hi, Harry. I knew him for 7 years. I then get a call that he passed away. So I go to the funeral where my mentor is, and I'm talking to people. And I start talking about his dad, and somebody said, you know that's not really his dad, right? I said, it's not? I have to tell you, I saw him as his dad. There was no doubt in my mind he was his dad. He treated him like his dad. He celebrated his birthday, Father's Day, did everything, right? I had no belief that he wasn't his dad. No. He was on a golf course one day, my mentor, and was missing his father who had passed away. And he saw a guy sitting on a bench on the golf course and walked up and asked him if he could adopt him for his dad. And that's how it started. So my mother passed away about 4 years ago, and I met someone at the Center Club, and I asked her if I could adopt her to be my mom. And so now I send her a Mother's Day card and do all that stuff. So great lessons from Raymond Blank. The third thing I want to recognize is landmark education. Anybody familiar with landmark education? Great. I was involved with landmark education about 12 years ago, and learned lots about how I was in the way of growing my business. Okay?
Got it.
Right? You got that, right? Right. Okay. Listen, you guys are all in here wanting to grow your business. I promise you, it's not about how much you know. It's really about how much you're in the way. So I took this course 12 years ago, and I'm a really smart guy, and so I thought that's all I need to do. So time went by, and about 3 years ago I decided I was going to take the advanced course, but I figured I forgot everything from the original course. And I took it again, and I realized that I had integrated everything that was in the course, and didn't even know it. In fact, I took credit for it. I did. I took credit for all the wisdom that was in that course. I'm telling you, I was really embarrassed. Nobody else knew, but I did stand up front of the room. I did stand up front of the room and kind of acknowledge that I was a thief for 10 years. And it really did, but it made me go back and look at what the real impact was on my business. And I keep very tight records. So I went back and looked at it. And 18 months after I took the Landmark Basic course, my business grew 5 times in 18 months. And I thought I was a smart guy that made it happen. I had to acknowledge that I wasn't. Okay? So I would request that you take a look at it. Now, I asked a couple people here, May in the corner and Karen in the back. They have information about free introductions that are actually going to be done in Sarasota over the next few days. They're done all the time, but they happen to be happening in Sarasota. So when we break, you should go back and see them. I'll tell you the dates and where they are. They're in several locations, I think, in Sarasota. They're given in Tampa as well. I'm actually participating in their leadership training program. I just finished the first 7-month leadership program. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, but it was a great course. It really was. Okay, so let's talk about what I do for a living. I own a business strategy firm. It didn't start that way. 33 years ago, I started an IT firm. So I would help people with computers. I was the guy that I sold IBM PC Server number 4. I wish I hadn't, actually. I wish I still had it. So when the PC hit, I hit the computer market. But I actually had a computer degree, so it was a little different. So I could really help you. I did that for about 7 years, and I would ask people questions like, what do you want this computer for? And they would say, generally, to fix some problem, to fix a mess. That was really what they were saying. So about 40% of the time, I would say to them, your mess is just going to move into this nice, pretty box. It's not really going to get cleaned up. So I started to graduate, without any intention at all, help people with processes. Because that's generally why you buy a computer, right? And I did that for about 6 or 7 years. And then I realized a problem. I had wonderfully large, engaging clients. And I remember sitting in a boardroom, had to be about 15 of us. and I'm speaking. And they're all listening, shaking their head, and they think this is a good idea, and this is what we're gonna do. And then I would come back the next month, and they wouldn't do anything. So since I was the common denominator in multiple rooms, I determined I didn't know something. So I began a study in human behavior to try to figure out how do I get people to do what they need to do. So at that moment, I shifted my practice again to be a strategist. And now I have a business strategy firm. It appears as if I change my business every 7 years, so 35's coming up, so I think something else will change in about 2 years, we'll see. We're generally break and fix people. People call us, what do you know, it's not like they call me and say, my business is running terrific, can you come take a look? That's not when I get the call, right? So here's why people call me. They're in trouble. Often that happens. When the economy plummeted, my phone gets really busy when the economy goes bad. Okay? What am I going to do? How do I stay alive? Where should I spend my money? Where should I spend my time? Sometimes I get called to do a checkup. Just a fresh look from the outside. Okay? Business growth is probably 60% of my business. You know, I'm flat. I've been flat for 3 years. I don't know how to break through it. Okay? In the 33 years I've been doing what I've been doing, I have noticed and reported on a trend. For those of you that would like this presentation, I'll give you my number, my email address at the end, and I'll send it to you. So you don't have to take pictures or.
Oh, thank you.
You can take pictures if you'd like, but you don't have to, right? So I've noticed a trend, and I call it the trends of 1s and 3s. When a client calls me, or a prospective client calls me and says, I have a problem, and I say, what are your gross revenues? They give me a number that starts with a 1 or a 3. It's 100,000, it's 300,000, it's $1 million, it's $3 million, and it hasn't changed in 33 years. I would think with inflation, it would change. It has not changed. And I can tell them, before they tell me the problem, based on the number they give me, what the problem is. Because what gets you to that plateau can't push you through. Generally what an owner says is, I've got to do this thing, I can't get any bigger. I get clients, I lose clients, I get business, I lose business. Seems like I stay at the same spot. Because the thinking that got you where you are cannot drive you to the next level. Now I've been very fortunate. I've worked with companies that are at 100,000 and want to break through. And I've actually worked with a company that was at 3 billion and wanted to break through. I promise you I didn't work with the CEO of that company. Okay? But we made some impact, right? So there are plateaus in growth, and if you don't have a support system, you're going to look at it the same way over and over again. This is a great opportunity. I like next week's, I might come to that. Next week's hot seat. I want to see that. That's really cool. Sometimes I get called to fix a broken process or a system. Something's not working and I fix it. A new product launch, new startups, mergers and acquisitions. But the number one reason that solopreneurs call me is I need my life back. Okay? Amen. Because we all had this dream, right? I'm going to start my own thing and I can do my own hours and I can have a wonderful life. And guess what? It takes a lot of time to wear all those hats, right? And so I get it, all right? Everyone who starts their own business gets it. So they need their life back. So the best story I can tell you on that story is this. I took on a client that has a real estate investment company. She works kind of on her own. She has some resources that help her. And she has investment properties. And she wants her life back. She told me she wanted her life back. Okay? She works around the clock, manages properties, buys properties, sells properties, working all the time. The washer goes down in a property, she's got to respond to it. Okay? So I start to work with her for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I used to meet with her at her home office. So I knocked on the door, and a man answered, who I hadn't met yet. I assumed it was her husband, and it was. He opens the door, he was very tall, and he says, "Are you Marquette?" Like really deep. I was like, boy, am I in trouble or something? I don't know. Right? And I said, yes. He said, I want to thank you for giving my wife back. Good stuff, huh? That's why I do what I do. Just that moment, right? You know, when I work for big companies, I don't get those moments, right? It's the little companies I get the moments in, right? So I had to get myself together after he told me that. He actually hugged me, which is really odd too. Right? I'm telling you, this guy had to be 6'2", right? And so I'm like, okay, all right, let's go, right? So it was a fun day. You know, I've done work for probably 4 of the largest pharmaceutical companies, and that was happenstance, by the way. It wasn't like I sought them out. And for one of them, I worked on a project that saved them $10 million a year. Pretty impressive, I love telling you. And I have a chart about how I did it and all that stuff, right? But I didn't change a life. You didn't get drugs cheaper, I promise you that, right? I might have saved a job or two, maybe saved a job or two, okay? But I really didn't make an impact. I'm sitting with a couple who owns an online business, right? And they sell a training package online. And they come to me and say, Mark, we've been doing this for 18 months, we haven't sold one. So I said, okay, let's take a look, right? And they start to tell me about this product that they're selling that actually teaches business people how to do collaborative marketing with each other. So we share each other's names and we market to them and that kind of stuff. I said, okay. And I always ask a lot of questions when I first meet with them. And the answer was almost every time no, which is a bad thing for them, but a good thing for me, because no means I can help them, right? So it was an easy solution. They had made all kinds of errors and flaws in thinking, and it could have been a really easy fix. So I'm there for the third meeting, and they say, and the wife says to the husband, should we show Mark the app? So it's odd that it comes up in the third meeting that you have an app, okay? Now, keep in mind they sold this for $295, okay? So I said, what's the app? He brings out a folder, he's got layouts and designs, and it's an app that actually collaborates two businesses on your iPhone so that you can send offers to each other's customers. So I said, I asked him a few questions. I said, we're going to stop this meeting. He said, wait, I said, I got to get some documents to sign. Okay. So I bring some non-disclosure, all kinds of documents up because they don't know what they actually have. I said, what was your plan about the app? Well, if they buy our training, we'll give them the app for free.
Oh.
So good. That's a good plan. Okay, I like that. Now, the app wasn't quite ready yet, but it was close. So I said to him, I want to give you a homework assignment, and then I'm going to invite someone to join us at our next meeting. And the homework assignment was, ask 20 business people how much they would pay for an app that shoots offers to their customers and is branded with their name. Just ask them that, and come back and see me. So I have a partner, his name is Joe Malinowski. Probably a lot of you know him. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Brilliant man. He's that guru that I go to when I hit an internet thing, right? We've all hit them, right? He's the guy, right? He either says, this is how you do it, or I know who to ask. That's what he does. Often he knows how to do it. It's kind of sickening the way you tell the truth. He knows all the answers. But he's wonderful to have on my team, though. So I now have another meeting. Joe sits down. Now I tell Joe nothing, okay? The couple sit down. I said, well, before we get started, what did you find on your homework? Between $500 and $5,000 is what someone would pay for an app that's branded with their company that will shoot offers out. Okay, now Joe's listening, like, why does Mark bring me here? An app, what are we doing there, right? So I then say to the couple, I'm going to tell Joe what you told me, and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. So I start to tell Joe, and we're relaxing, sitting down, and as I talk, Joe starts to sit up. And he started to pay attention, and he starts asking questions like, can you track the traffic? And he says, yes. Can we generate an affiliate program? Who here is involved in an affiliate program, right? And the answer is yes. So we got a lot of yes answers, right? So Joe starts to shake a little. He's a little nervous about this thing, right? So it was I, right? So now the couple's like not sure what we're doing. So I said to them, here's the new business model. We're going to sell the app and give the training away.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're like, wait a minute. All right. Now, this is not an app easy to launch, right? It would be easy to copy. So it's not like we're going to launch something and learn about it and then grow as we can. Because it's a fairly easy technology to duplicate, yes? Somebody has some money, they probably duplicate it. Which means they needed funding. Because we have to launch in 55 major markets at the same time. Right? I get a call 3 weeks later from the husband, and he says, I'm in final, this always makes me nervous, I'm in final negotiations to merge with a company. Now, I hadn't heard about this final negotiation, right? I didn't even hear about the negotiations, right? But somebody had become aware of this technology and wanted to partner it with theirs, which I couldn't see because I didn't have a non-disclosure agreement with the other company. So I said, great, what's the deal? They're going to give me $150,000 up front, 3 million shares of stock, and a salaried position. I said, what kind of stock? He said, what? What kind of stock? I don't know. I said, that's an important question. Do you want me to get involved in the discussion? He said, no, but tell me what I should ask. Which was actually smart, right? Because you bring somebody in, I look like an attorney sometimes, so people get nervous, right? So we went back and forth, him and I. He would like take a break, Mark, here's what they said, blah, 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 right? So he got 1 million shares of preferred stock, $150,000 check, and I want to let you know, his wife went back to work. That was their financial position at the moment. She took a job in a bank, okay? And it changed their life. I don't get to do that in big companies. I don't see them anymore. They're too big for me. Okay? That's what we do. Now, there's a myth. 85% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. Who's heard this before? Right? We all have, right? Now, I'm a statistician. I can make a number look like anything you would like it to say, right? But I'm going to suggest to you that this number is not accurate. Okay? Otherwise, you all wouldn't be here. Right? If 85% of you, 40 of you get out of here. Right? The reality is that 75% succeed after 1 year. Let me tell you why the data's off. How many here have an LLC? Yes, right? How many here don't have a structure? Okay, you need to talk to those people that have an LLC and talk to them about the value of doing it. Okay, so if you have an LLC, okay, I have an LLC. I've had 7 LLCs doing exactly the same work, but I shut one down and I opened another one up. That's considered, according to the 85% number, a business failure. And it's not, right? You only get the information about how many LLCs got formed today. There's a ton of them that get shut down, right? So whenever we restructure, the Department of, what is the Department of
Corporations.
It's not the Department of Corporations. Federal, thank you, whatever it is. They measure just how many closings there are. They don't measure the cause or reason or anything like that. 45% succeed after 5 years. I don't know how 45 and 85 add up. 45% succeed. And then 29% succeed after 10. So look to your left, look to your right. One of you in 10 years. Okay? Which is a whole lot better odds, obviously, than 85% fail. So there is hope. Don't give up. So, when we start a business, we all have a brilliant idea. Yes? Right? I have the idea I'm going to make a fortune with. Let me start. Or I think I could be good at this. Or I do this for someone else. I think I could do it for me. Right? I'm working too hard. I need to find an easier way to do this work. Right. But we actually say it at the beginning, right? Right. So, typically it's a technician that goes to a business manager. Right? The best story I like to tell is the plumber. Right? There's a plumber working for a company, he's fixing toilets all day. On his knees, working all day. Then a guy from his company with a nice jacket on, not a tie generally, with a clipboard, checks in to see how the work's going. And he looks at that guy saying, wait a minute, I'm doing all the work. He's got hardly anything to do, because it always looks like that from the other side, right? I'm going to start my own plumbing company. And he does. Okay? And he's a hard-working plumber. And he's got great relationship skills, and he helps people and all that kind of stuff. And he starts getting busy doing plumbing, and he can probably get his business to about $100,000. And then he realizes that being a plumber for another company might not have been so bad. Right? Because he doesn't have any business experience. Okay? So he's got to learn it on the fly. Looks easy when someone's carrying a clipboard around. Right? Looks easy. Right? He's got to start doing like budgeting, scopes of work. And all he wants to do is come fix your toilet. How much should I charge? All those kinds of things, right? They're often underfunded. Okay, how many here are underfunded? Got it. Right? There's little or no business plan. Okay, how many here have a business plan? Okay, how many here don't have a business plan? How many here don't like to raise their hand? Got it. All right, so here's the deal. A business plan only counts if it's written down. A business plan in your head doesn't count. Okay? You have to go through the process of writing it down. Now, it can be for the reason of giving it to the bank or giving it to investors or making you firm about the decisions you're making. It could be for that reason, but the reason why you do a business plan is because it makes you think about things you weren't going to think about. Because you got to put it in a business plan.
Does it count if you don't follow it?
Well, we're going to get to that part. Okay, got it. Okay. So there's little no business plan. So we need philosophy, we need direction, we need goals, right? Accountability is not part of the plan. It is part of the execution, right? So we're running a startup, right? We're sweating an awful lot, yes? Very busy. The stakeholders' roles. All of you are all of these things. I'm an owner, an operator, I'm an administrator, I do sales, I do service. By the way, internet businesses and regular businesses, if we want to call it that, have the same problems, okay? When Merck Pharmaceutical opens up a new company, they have the same problem. Now they have more money they can throw at it. So mistakes can be covered up fairly easily, right? But they have the same problem. And then the question is, what hat do I wear and when do I wear it, right? Do I get the new piece of business or do I do my bookkeeping, right? Do I service this client or do I go on vacation with my family? Those are the decisions you're making every single day. And when you start up, those are the decisions you have to make. So here's the set of questions. Where should I spend my time? Thank you for sharing your time with me. Okay? What business do I take? Right? When you first start up, you like take everything, right? And you do lots of learning. Now I'm going to open up the coffers here a little bit. We have a client that we sometimes take on. We don't do it anymore. That ends up being problematic. Everybody know what that feels like? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, there was a particular one that my whole team talked about because it was the most problematic, and she had a name. So anytime somebody looked like that, we would call it her name. So we felt bad, right? So it'd be like, oh, there's another Mark. It was like that, okay? So we didn't want to keep doing that. So we gave a name to it called Blue Ribbon. Okay, so we called him a Blue Ribbon client because if we said it out loud, it would sound like a good thing. But we knew it was a bad thing, right? So there just so happens that there was two women that owned the business that I met with at the Startup Club, and three of us, Joe, John, and I, met with them all at the same time, which is an unusual meeting for us to hold. So we're in the middle of talking, and they're sharing with us, and I turn to my partners and say, I think we need to put this client in the Blue Ribbon category. What do you think? In the middle of the meeting, and they're feeling like, ooh, we're in the Blue Ribbon category. Right? Got it? So we don't have blue ribbons anymore. Okay, every time a new practitioner comes in my practice, I give them the freedom to get blue ribbons. Because you learn it, and you go, ugh, I'll never do that again, right? But you have to feel it, right? If I say to somebody that's a blue ribbon, because blue ribbons look needy, right? Oh, I want to help them. They look like they can use some help. Let me try, right? Those are blue ribbons, right? So we have, at this moment, we don't have any blue ribbons. We might have a light blue ribbon. Maybe. We're not sure, okay? Now, it is very important for me, again, to help businesses of all sizes and all positions, okay? So often we'll engage with a client who needs help, okay? You know, I'll get a call, I'm ready to file bankruptcy, can you come help me? It's like, wait a minute. So I got to run to go do that one, right? I'm doing a startup, I've never done this before. They tell me the idea, and I go, oh, pretty good. Let me jump in there, okay? What business do I pass on, right? Who do I do business with? That's always a tough one, right? I often contract out some of the work that I do. And I'm very careful in the selection of those people because they have my brand all over them. If they mess up, and David Katz messed up, okay? So I'm very, very careful. We have a vetting process that's pretty substantial, actually. Okay? So be careful. Where should I spend my money? Thank you for spending your money today. Where do I get funding? I did this presentation in a smaller version a week and a half ago for C1 Bank. And they added on, now that you know the success factors, let me show you how to get it funded. It's actually pretty cool. As opposed to what you might hear, money is available. Small Business Administration actually has a ton in its coffers. It's a little hard to get it, but not too tough.
It's not on furlough right now?
Excuse me?
I said it's not on furlough right now?
Probably the administration of the app might be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But remember that the SBA loans are done through the bank. So it doesn't hit the government funding until the final approval. So you could start now. I think they're having a news conference today about some program, right? We'll see. Has anybody been personally hurt by the fact that the government is shut down? I haven't either. It's a terrible thing to say, isn't it?
No, things got better.
You think? All right.
Can't get my passport.
The gas went down.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
This is probably a good comedy show in a few days.
I got it. All right, so I'm going to go through 8 success factors. Now, myself and my mentor and about 7 other people sat down to develop this. My mentor had been doing it for 60 years, so we identified these 8 factors as the common thread to success. In fact, 4 of them on the left, which we consider to be mandatory, if you don't have those launched in a very serious manner, I can tell you probably pretty close to the day you'll shut down. So these 4 are really important. These 4 over here, you have to pick 2, because if you do all 8, you'd never get the return on your time and money, right? And generally, the 2 on this side kind of naturally make sense, and we'll talk through that. Okay? So the first mandatory one is a service-directed organizational structure. Let's talk about that. What I often do in organizations is I flatten them. Now, you're solopreneurs, right?
Yes.
Got it. But you're waiting for the day to delegate what you do, yes?
Yes.
Right. So you need to be thinking about this now, so that when you go to do it, you don't get in the way of the service that you're providing. Okay? So, the best example I can give you is Nordstrom's. Now, has anyone ever seen the employee handbook at Nordstrom's?
No.
It's one piece of paper.
Oh, yay.
And this is what it says. Welcome to Nordstrom's. We're glad to have you with our company. Our #1 goal is to provide outstanding customer service. Set both your personal and professional goals high. We have great confidence in your ability to achieve them. Nordstrom rules, rule #1. Use good judgment in all situations. There will be no additional rules. Please feel free to ask your department manager, store manager, or division general manager if you have any questions. That's their entire employee handbook. And if you've been to Nordstrom's, you can see how they behave. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I go to the Ritz-Carlton, service-directed organizational structure. I'm actually going to the Ritz-Carlton to speak at a customer service conference. This is really funny how this works, okay? I pull up to the airport and it's about 11:30. I have my bag in my hand. They let me in. I go to the front desk, and the person in front of the desk says, "Hi, Mr. Katz. Welcome to the Ritz-Carlton." Now, already I'm like, am I the only one that hasn't checked in? I don't know how that works. I'm already impressed. Okay, great. You look like you've had a long day, which is like a little pushy actually, but you look like you had a long day. And I said, yeah, I've been flying and I've been working and blah, 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 blah. Is there anything I can do for you? I said, well, I would love to get a bite to eat. He says, man, Sunday, 11:30, not gonna happen. So I said, oh. He said, well, let me see what I can do. I'm like, all right. So I go to my room, about 20 minutes later, so I knock at the door. And here's he's at my door with a tray, a turkey sandwich, chips, and a drink. He says, how's this? I said, perfect, it's exactly what I wanted. I said, well, how'd you do it? He said, well, I went in the kitchen, made you a sandwich. I'm there for a customer service conference. Now, I don't know if they knew it, okay? I don't think they did. Okay. So I said, okay, so I ate my sandwich, and of course it's in my mind. And by the way, I used the story in the conference, which was really funny too, okay? So I go to the front desk the next day, and I say, can I see the manager? Now, has anyone ever requested to see a manager in the store before? And they do whatever they can to stop you from doing that?
Yeah.
They said, no problem, let me get him for you. Okay? Manager comes over, and I tell him my experience. How do you make this happen? He tells me 2 things. Everybody that works here, from the person that cleans your room to the manager in this building, has $1,000 freely to use to service a guest. I said, really? I said, yeah. Now I gotta tell you something, my chest stood out when he said it, and I didn't even work there. But I can imagine if I was cleaning the floors and I had $1,000 to spend on servicing a customer, I'd make sure that customer service was key. So what they've done is they've shrunk the organization to make sure customer service happens at the level it needs to. Okay? Now the guy at the front desk probably spent what, $15 maybe? To give me my turkey sandwich and my chips and my drink, something like that. Right? He spent $1,000. But I was tickled pink, I'm telling the story. 22 years later, I'm telling the story. Okay? So I said, boy, you have a culture here. He said, I do. Would you like to see our mission statement? I said, okay. So he brings a guy off a ladder, and his name was either Jose or Carlos, I can't remember. Okay, 22 years. turned 50, my memory went squish. It's terrible. So, he says, Carlos, can you show Mr. Katz your personal mission statement? Reaches in his pocket, pulls it out, got 10 things. His personal mission statement. I said, okay, thanks, I appreciate it. Goes back on the ladder, goes back forward. Would you like to see his department's mission statement? I said, okay. Calls the front desk, they open a file cabinet, they pull it out, they show it to me. Would you like to see the hotel's mission statement? I said, yeah, they pull that out. Would you like to see the brand mission statement? I said, yes. It was on the wall. Right? We're ladies and gentlemen servicing ladies and gentlemen. You ever see it? Right? Okay, got it? So they're doing something to squish service down to the customer. Okay? They made it a priority. It is a mandatory requirement, yes? Okay? So as you now start adding structure and add complexity to what you're doing, don't skip over the service. Okay? I am doing a workshop in a hotel room, and I didn't spill, but someone spilled coffee. And there's a guy that walks by the door. I said, excuse me, can you get someone to clean up? He says, well, I can't do it for you. You have to call this number. Right? 1-800, get it done or something. I don't know what it was. So I had to call a number. Hi, hello, this is who I am. I'm in this room. Now, that was bad enough. They dispatched him to come do it. Right?
Oh, that's good.
Not quite a service-directed organizational structure, yes? We all think call centers are like the best thing ever. Call centers are not service-oriented. They're tracking-oriented. That's why they have them. How many calls did we do? Not productive. Where you, at least, anybody work in a call center? Ugh. Right? look at his face. Right. It's all about data. Okay? The next one, flawless execution. Now, this is a big word, guys, flawless execution. And it's flawless execution in everything that you do. Okay? Anybody familiar with the pet rock?
Yes.
Boy, raise your hand. I don't think I've had that many people. Wow. The average age in this room is right on target. Let's go.
What did they do with that?
What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can still buy them.
I just had a flash.
You can still buy them. You can go under petrock.com. You can go buy one right now if you want to.
Oh.
Okay. Now, I was around when there's a pet rock. I actually bought a pet rock. Okay.
Yeah.
But think about what they did. They convinced America to buy a rock. Okay. Now, if you remember, it came in a box and it had a manual on how to skip it and how to clean it. It had the whole thing. They were flawlessly executing this thing, right? They sold 5 million of them in 6 months for $3.95. What do you think their cost was? Right? That's flawless execution. Yes, sir.
People are buying billions of dollars worth of water that they can get from their tap.
I got it. We might have a different position on water in the tap, though, especially in Florida. There's a high degree of kidney stones in Florida. You know why?
Water.
Minerals in the water. So as soon as I found that out, I poured out my water out of the tap and I bought bottled water. What am I going to do? Right? All right, so flawless execution, okay? Good enough doesn't happen in flawless execution, right? What I can get away with doesn't happen. Now, when you're trying to pay bills, it's hard not to be good enough. You know what I mean? To be flawless. It takes extra time, takes extra effort. What's the saying? It's better to do it right than to do it again. Do it over.
Right first time.
Right first time, and then do it over. Right, got it. Next thing is a clear strategy. Now, this is one of those things that has to be in place or has to be desirable if I work for a client. Typically, there is no strategy. The strategy is, what do I do next? Everybody in that strategy? Right, this is what I did today, what should I do next? Right? So let's talk about a company that had clear strategy. When Google announced its public offering, this room remembers that. I really like this room. Right? They announced it at a price that people thought they were crazy about. $85. We thought it was crazy. In fact, I thought it was so crazy I didn't buy any. I'm not smart all the time. Okay? And it sold at $108 to $135. I think it's about $623 today.
Wow.
And I think it's split 3 times. Okay? Think they had a clear strategy? Probably. Yes.
Also only 100 shares.
I'm sorry?
They offered only 100 shares. You couldn't buy more than 100 shares.
Is that true?
I bet once it traded, yeah, but
Got it.
free IPO.
I got it. Did you buy some? Oh. I always think of Forrest Gump
Yeah.
with the fruit stock, remember?
Yeah.
The Apple computer. Right. The fourth one is high energy. Now this is an interesting one. So it's high energy you really can't plan for. You can only enforce it. Now it starts with you guys, okay? If you get up in the morning and you're not high energized, you probably should do something to change that before you start working. Okay? Especially if you're going to interact with your clients and resources and all those people. Okay? Get involved in something that energizes you, probably every day. When you're a solopreneur, you got the weight of the world sitting on your shoulders. You've got to have a way to get that weight off your shoulders. Yes? Okay? In large corporations, they have masseuse, they got all kinds of things. Right? They get it. Right? So let's talk about high energy. And I'm going to talk about Southwest Airlines. Everybody fly Southwest?
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody, who doesn't like Southwest? Really? You don't? Oh,
I'm
got it.
still flying.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Southwest Airlines, I'm on a Southwest airline. And by the way, when they hire employees, you know what they put in the ad?
Humor?
Actors want it.
Oh.
Not help wanted, actors wanted. Got that? Right? So they already start with high energy, yes, and creative people. And you get a sense for it when you talk to them. They get on the mic and they're funny and do kind of stuff. They have their own show, didn't they, Southwest Airlines? Didn't they have
Yeah.
a reality show? So I was actually on the plane that they did that show on. It was really, it's different. It's laid out differently, so it's really kind of cool. So I'm on a plane and the flight attendant comes on and says, we have a headwind, we're going to be delayed. So we're going to have a contest. So I'm going, okay. Now I'm a business traveler. I'm thinking to myself, do business travelers want to have a contest? Like, really? Right? So we're going to hand out little napkins and things to write with if you need them. And you're going to guess how many toilet paper squares from the back of the plane to the front of the plane. Now, everyone's laughing, like, really? Okay, so they start handing out pieces of paper. I'm sitting on the aisle seat. There's a woman sitting next to me. And I'm thinking, like, how many squares? I'm looking, like, how big is a square? I don't even know how big a square is, right? So all of a sudden, I look at the corner of my eye and the toilet paper is so they're rolling out a roll of toilet paper to actually count how many squares it is. Okay? Now we're all laughing. You know the idea was to distract us, right? Because we're going to be late. We're going to be late, right? So we write all the numbers. They come and collect them, and they calculate, right? And while they're calculating, they're doing like Jeopardy music or something. They're entertaining us, right? And they say, and the winner is, and it's the woman that sits next to me. And they're going to give the winner a prize. Okay? I don't remember how many it was, 600 and something. I don't remember how many. So they come over, and the prize she gets is that gigantic plastic bag of little peanut bags. Now, you see how funny it is, right? It's pretty funny. We all laugh. She is laughing hysterically. And they give her the bag. And I'm telling you, like, off the charts laughing. So I say to her, listen, that's pretty funny, but is it that funny? She said, you know what I do for a living? What? I sell peanuts to the airlines. Right? So it's just, I couldn't believe it, okay? So I said, wait a minute, did you know how many toilet paper squares? No, I really didn't know. I said, okay. Right? But that's entertaining, yes?
Yes.
They got me distracted. I'm telling the story, right? You're going to go fly Southwest to figure out how many squares there are, whatever it is, right? Now I have another experience. I'm on United Airlines. I'm on United Airlines. And it's a full flight. And I'm sitting against the window, which, by the way, after this moment, never did again. Okay? I'm sitting next to the window. There's an empty seat in the middle, and there's another guy sitting there. And we're praying that the plane's not completely full, right? So we can have this empty seat. In fact, I like put stuff on the seat so that people would think there's somebody there, right? We know all the tricks we play, right? Yep. And also I'm waiting for a really attractive woman, and I'll pick my stuff up. Maybe she'll sit in the middle of the seat. Those were those days. That's not what I do anymore. So it's full. And now a woman comes into the plane that can occupy more than one seat. And she sits in the middle seat. And so the best way I can explain it to you is she's sitting on her seat and half my seat. Now, it reminded me when I was a little kid, I had an Aunt Elsie. And she was kind of as big as this woman. I used to lift to like nestled with her when I was a little kid. Okay? She became my Aunt Elsie for 2.5 hours. Okay? Now, what's happening during the process is I'm just getting zen with it, right? It's just, I'm gonna get to know this woman for sure, right? And no one in the flight attendant staff is making eye contact with me. Not one person. Okay? Now, I'm a customer service guy. I know they've been trained not to do this, right? But they're not gonna do it because they have to go, I'm sorry, and now the woman who's heavy is gonna get uncomfortable about being sorry, right? So I get what's going on, but they're not making any eye contact at all. 2.5 hours later, we're very close friends. Okay? The plane lands, I get up, and I see empty seats. Man. Now, it takes a lot for me to get angry. I had to take a deep breath that day, right? So I get up, I leave. They don't make eye contact with me as I'm leaving the plane. You know how they say, oh, thank you and have a good day? Mm-mm. They let me go out of the plane. I go up to the front counter for United, and I say, hi, how you doing? Can I see the manager? What do you think they said? No, oh, is there anything I can help you with? They don't want to do that, right? I said, no, I just want to see the manager. 20 minutes I wait. Manager comes up, Mr. Katz, how can I help you? I tell him the story. And I say to them, I have a suspicion you probably train people how to handle this, right? He says, we do. He said, it's obvious that they didn't follow the program. I got it. I said, I don't know what you're going to do about it, but that's what it is. He says, well, let me see what I can do. He goes away, comes back, and he gives me a voucher for a future flight. Okay? So I say to him, listen, his name was Anthony. I said, Anthony, let me ask you a question. I just had a terrible experience on your plane. What makes you think I want another one? Right? So I said, I'm going to let you keep that. I'm going to let you think about it. So, okay. About 10 days later, I get a letter from Anthony. It was from him with a check.
Wow.
And he said, I hope you use it on our airline, but feel free to fly any airline you like. Wow. So at least he recovered, right? I never flew United anyway. Never. Okay. So that's the difference, right? High energy, low energy. They weren't even looking at me. Oh, I don't want you to talk to the manager. Right? It's all negative stuff. These are the 4 mandatory ones. If you don't do this, I can tell you if you tell me your business how many days it'll take. Okay? You've got to focus on these 4 things. And be relentless about it. You've got to be honest about it. Where are you performing? Where aren't you performing? Now, on the right side, there's 4 of them. Leadership. Now, leadership's got a good example. By the way, they're mandatory. There are plenty of successful companies that have terrible leadership. I might have one of them, maybe. Right? I have geniuses that work at my company. Okay? Thank goodness that's what I have. Right? They're just terrific. Okay? Not every company needs leadership, but some companies do. Apple is probably one of those. Yes? Yeah. Steve Jobs comes, they do well. Steve Jobs leaves, they don't do well. Steve Jobs comes, they do well. It happened 3 times. Now we're all waiting to see what happens. Yes?
Yeah, watch this.
Right? We're going to see. We're going to see. Right? Right? The last innovation that Steve Jobs left, I think is destined to come out this year. So we're going to see how that works. Right? So leadership shows up in certain companies as an important vehicle, right? Second thing is organization. I don't mean that you have one. I mean that you are organized. Okay? So let's talk about organization for a second. Everybody here use Outback Steakhouse? Mm-hmm. Right? What's the largest fan acquisition event ever on the internet?
For better?
Yeah.
Oh, the thing for football thing.
It was Outback Steakhouse. You know what they did?
They
They gave away a bloomin' onion.
Oh.
And got 500,000 in a weekend. So if you want to get fans, give away bloomin' onions. Right? Because that's what people want, right?
What is that?
Very funny name.
Outback Steakhouse gave away a bloomin' onion if you were a fan of their food.
It's a menu item.
It's a. Have you ever seen an onion that's deep fried and it's terrible for you, probably, right? And it blossoms up, right? Right. And we eat it like it's nothing, right? We just keep eating. Got it. Right? Now, let's talk about Outback Steakhouse. Has anyone ever eaten in an Outback Steakhouse where it's connected physically to a Carrabba's?
No.
Yeah, they have those. Okay. Why do you think they would hook up? By the way, Carrabba's and Outback are owned by the same people, right? Bloomin' Brands is the new name they use. So the bloomin' onion is a really big deal, right? So Bloomin' Brands, right? So it's Outback, it's Carrabba's, it's Bonefish. There's got to be 7 of them.
Right.
Well, OSI used to be their name. Now they've changed it to Bloomin'
Leroy
Brands.
Selman's, Fleming's.
Great.
Yeah.
Right, so they're all the same company under a different brand. But they will connect an Outback with a Carrabba's. Why do you think they do?
When one is billed.
Okay, so anyone ever go to an Outback where there wasn't a line at dinner time? Probably not, right? So one is overflow, right? That's one. What other reason why would they do? But it doesn't have to be physically connected to do that, right?
Right, just nearby.
Nearby, right? But I'm saying they physically connect the two.
Sure.
Share the kitchen, right? So there's an efficiency. There's an organization that's involved there, right? So they share a kitchen. Now, I thought that I was genius when I shared this with people. And then
No,
he told me ahead of time he was leaving. So I thought I was going to bring to everybody's attention. Look how neat that is. See how they share the kitchen and all that stuff. And then someone in a room said they share a liquor license. Ooh. In Florida, it's $150,000. Right? How cool is that? Right? Now, no one knows this. If you're in an Outback and it's connected to Carrabba's, you can actually order something from the Carrabba's menu. Now, here's a flaw. Okay? The manager of an Outback Steakhouse, it's a very interesting process. If you ever go into an Outback Steakhouse and I pay attention, you don't want to go out to dinner with me. Right? So I'm paying attention. Right? So he's like really engaged. You know how you go to some of the chains and the manager within 20 minutes when you sit down comes over and says, is everything okay? And he's really not even looking at you. He just like has to say it. He has to say he did it, and then he walks away, right?
Yep.
Well, this guy is like really engaged, like moving around, talking to people. So I know there's something else going on here, right? So I asked. So I said, can I see the manager? And they say, sure, no problem, which is always nice. He comes over and I said, listen, I noticed this is what's going on. What's happening? He said, I own this store. I said, what? He said, I own this store. Now, I said, what do you mean you own the store? He said, well, here's how the program works. When a manager gets appointed to an Outback Steakhouse, he signs a 5-year agreement. And each year, he earns 20% of a 10% stake in the restaurant.
Not the one on the plate, though.
And if, no, very nice.
I'm sorry.
I'll
My
let you
friend
work
was
with
a-
my PowerPoint.
No, my friend was a proprietor. And that-
I got it, right.
Okay.
So he earns a 20% stake in a 10% ownership of that location. Okay? And he's talking to me like he's an owner right now, and he doesn't own 10% yet. Right? He said, I'm an owner. Okay? At the end of 5 years, he has a choice. He can take the 10% stake and stay there, or he can take $100,000 and go to another store. What do you think they usually pick?
$100,000.
No, they pick $100,000. Isn't it interesting? They don't do that. They take the $100,000. Now, you would say to yourself, why would Outback do that? All they're doing is deferring income. That's all. They could have paid the guy $20,000 more a year, but instead they don't have to pay him for 5 years. Okay, so it's smart on both sides. And they take a really talented guy and they move him to a store that's not doing so well. Right? So it's a program that works. It required a little thinking. It required a little organization to do that, right? Second thing is commitment to growth. Now, I'm going to make sure you understand when I say commitment to growth. All of you want to do more business, yes?
Yes.
That may not appear as if it's a commitment to growth. Commitment to growth means you're measuring it, you're driving it every single day. And when you're not growing, it's on your radar somewhere. Okay? I will not take on a client if they're not committed to growth. And by the way, I've had a few. Okay? I had a client that owned a health club. Actually owned several of them. And they had a major one, very large. And I was giving him recommendations. That's what I do, right? Let me show you how I can make you grow and make more money. Now, in a health club, the average health club that has racket sports only loses $3.20 a foot. If it has workout equipment, it loses 82 cents a foot. And if it has a swimming pool, it makes $5.23 a foot. Now, the interesting thing about a swimming pool is 90% of the people who join a health club with a pool will tell you they join for the pool, and only 10% use the pool.
Yep.
Okay? So, of course, I went to him and said, listen, we got to put a pool in. Look at the ROI, it'll be in a year and a half, we'll do great. He said, no, I don't want to make money. I said, what? So I don't want to make money. Now, the guy that owned it was a land developer, property manager, right? The building was in flex space, so it was, you know, you have a whole bunch of offices all in a row, and he had retrofitted this thing in a very elegant way. So he brings all of his prospective renters through this building, okay? He said, "But Mark, I can't make money here because it's a tax problem for me." I said, "I'm not your guy. I don't know how to stay flat. It's not even interesting to me." You with me? But that's what was important to him. Now, the nice thing about it is that if you do well, they spend a lot of money on the health club. So the members loved it. You know, they would upgrade things all the time. You know, it wouldn't run down, that kind of stuff. Okay? So a commitment to growth. Take a look at the word commitment when you look at it. Okay? I have a commitment to growth in my practice. I have not been executing it for 8 months because I have an assignment that's taking all my time that I just relieved myself of last week. But it was a flaw in thinking because I really stopped my business growth for 8 months. It was a great project. It was a lot of fun, and all my clients will benefit from the work I did there. It was a tough call, really, really tough. Okay. The last one is talented people. Okay. Now I have talented people. All right. Anyone ever seen a Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah.
You would suspect that one of their mandatory items is talented people, yes? Right? Right? So you know how I said that there will be two on this side that will kind of elevate themselves? Okay? It'll make sense in the business that you have, right? If you have a high technical internet-based business, you probably need a talented person to make that hum and work, right? If you have an automatic turnkey, okay? Anyone ever seen the website, thebestsnowshovel.com? Okay. Interesting website. A friend of mine bought it for $1. Okay. And it's called thebestsnowshovel.com. They only sell one thing. One snow shovel. They sell $33,000 of snow shovels a month. Pretty simple, right? Do you think everything's automated? Yes. He doesn't even touch it. It all gets sold, it all gets fulfilled, and money gets deposited in his bank account. Okay? Very simple. The same gentleman, he's a genius, this guy. By the way, he invests in online business, that's all he does. He starts a business that hosts, it actually publishes all of the fairs across the country. You know, like state fairs and bazaars and all that. So it's a place to find out where to go.
Oh, I know.
Okay? And he sells a membership. You know who he sells it to?
Carnival or fair people.
The people that want to be in it, not the people that want to go to it, right?
Right.
Right? The people that want to go to it come to find out where they are, right? So it's the people that want to be in them. Like, where do I move my booth next week? Right? This was 1.5 years ago. He had a $30,000 per month membership. It's something that was maintained, no, not per person, total. Who's just said member? Oh, sorry. Yeah, the membership I think is $15 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, $30,000 worth of memberships, and he's got a virtual assistant maintaining the content. Okay, now he puts a slide up on the screen, and he has his growth curve, which was pretty immense. And then I noticed that he's planning on a downsize. So I'm thinking to myself, what is that about? He doesn't say anything, so I go up to him afterwards. And I said, listen, what's the deal with this? He said, well, I'm being replaced. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, somebody's going to provide a free service. Right? They're going to provide it free for the advertising. So I said, what are you doing? He said, I already launched my next site. What site's that? The one that's free. He's just a genius guy. So smart. You know, you should get him to speak here. He's in Tampa.
Chris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should get him to speak here. He's just brilliant. I mean, he sees things in a way and at a level. He'll start talking and say, I never wanted to work hard for a living. And I figured out how to do it. That's how he starts. Makes you, like, not feel so good for a second. Okay? So you gotta pick two. Right? Any questions? Right? Are you thinking about what you're gonna change when you leave here?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Good.
All right, so whenever I speak, we know what you're going to do. So whenever I speak, I always get nervous that I leave you with a whole lot of information, and then you're like, what do I do now? So this is just a six-step process that you should think about. Number one, you need to find a trusted advisor. Now, a trusted advisor is not your spouse, it's not your father, it's not your kid, it's not anybody that has anything to do with you other than your best interest in your business, okay? So I get an opportunity to do an engagement with a client, I have to travel for 90 days. I'll be out of the country. And I go to my wife, who is my trusted advisor, and I say, listen, I got this thing, here's what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I say, do you think I should go? And she says, no. There's a little bit of biased opinion in the conversation, okay? Now, I had Ray Blank as my trusted advisor for a very, very long time. There was never a doubt in my mind that whenever he talked to me, it was about me and what was my best interest. And he smacked me, okay? It wasn't like he was nice about it, okay? But I gave him permission to do it. Second step is generate a power team. Now, you kind of have a power team here, but you may have something else here. I had a client in North Carolina. It was an architectural firm. So they did design build. And they built large churches across the U.S. That's what their niche was. Nice niche. So I said to him, we need to get a power team, and he fought me. Now, I have an interesting relationship with my clients. I have the easy job, they have the hard job. The easy job is I tell them what I think they should do. The hard job is they get to pick when they want to listen and when they don't. And I'm not attached, but I won't let go. So he says, no, I don't think so. I go, okay. I come back, I think we should get a power team. He says, no. I go, okay. I come back, I think we should have a power team. He says, no. I say, okay. 90 days, every 2 weeks. I think we should have a power team. No. Finally, he says, okay already, let's have one. So we assemble a power team. Now, a power team is not necessarily a team of powerful people, but it could be. But it's people that, when assembled, provide power to your business. Okay? So we assembled his real estate attorney and his business attorney, his CPA, his banker, his manager, me. I'm missing somebody. Insurance agent. Did I say that? His insurance agent. We get all together. And now there's a conversation about risk. And the attorney is talking to the insurance guy. And they're trying to figure out what's the best way to mitigate risk. And in about 20 minutes of the meeting, my client saves $40,000. And he turns to me and says, I guess we should have a power team. Because if he hadn't put them together, they wouldn't have had the conversation. Now there's another benefit to it, is that my client is the only one generating this with those people. There's no other business in town that is putting them on a power team. And by the way, egos lit up. They want to be there. Now they also know by supporting that business, it's going to help them too. The banker's going to get more money, the insurance agent's going to get more insurance policies. Now there was one person who did charge. Who was it?
You.
Well, there was two people that believed. Two. Who was the other person besides me? Well, this is an easy one.
Who got more?
The attorney. So the attorney paid for their time, okay? A little short-sighted, I thought, but that's okay. Attorneys pay, they take charge. Okay? So having a power team, go get them activated. They now have a quarterly meeting, and the only thing they talk about is my client's business. Now, the other value is I have 6 people now out in the marketplace talking about this unique thing that my client does. You don't think he gets referrals? In a heartbeat. And it has nothing to do with asking for them. It's because he's doing something unique and appreciating the value that they bring. Right? Third thing, participate in peer mentoring. Welcome. I'm assuming that's kind of what this is, yes?
Absolutely.
Right. Everybody knows Chris Krimitsos of the Tampa Bay Business Owners Organization, right?
Yeah.
That's peer mentoring, yes? I was involved in peer mentoring up until the day my mentor passed away for 18 years. I traveled back and forth to Hopkins to be in a group that did peer mentoring. It was a very powerful group, right? What happens there stays there. We can talk about all kinds of issues, right? It's a very imperative piece. I'm about to put together a mastermind group, actually, because I need to put it back in my life. Okay? Next thing is develop a business plan. I know it's a pain, okay? John Patrick, who works for me, he does them. It's actually not that expensive, but you can go to the SBA, and they'll walk you through it, and they don't charge you. Is it SBA? Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Or score.
Score.
Oh, thank you, SCORE, that's right, that's what I was saying. Okay, they'll walk you through it. Okay? And it's the thinking that's important. The next thing is to create a transition plan, because here's where you are now, and here's the business plan. So someone said, what happens if you don't follow your business plan? Well, that's what this transition plan is for. Okay? And the last piece is sharpen the saw. You've got to take care of yourself. It does mean scheduling downtime. Okay? Where you're not thinking about your business. And I know it's hard to turn off. Right? It's hard for me to turn it off. I can't go out to dinner. Right? It's hard to turn it off. Okay? These 6 steps will happen. Okay? Now, sharpen the saw can come in different variations. It can be coming to an event like this, so you're learning new things, right? It can be getting a health program, right? It can be going to some education and some training. Really commit to yourself, okay? One of the things that I do, and I do this every... We're not going to even talk about why you picked that song. Okay. It could be doing education. Now, between Christmas and New Year's, it used to be Thanksgiving to New Year's. Clients won't let me do this anymore. I take off. And it's really what I would call philosophical time for me. I recognize those people that have really contributed. I look at what I've accomplished, and I look at what I want to do. And what I'm really looking for is what's been missing over the last year that I could actually put in place going forward. And it's generally personal development, okay? Now, I got to be straight with myself. Listen, you may think that I'm flawless, but I promise you I'm not. Okay? And I know it, okay? My mentor one time, I was working in a client assignment for 2 years, okay? And I called him and I said, I think I'm done here. He said, okay, let's meet. It's okay. He said, you think you do a pretty good job here? I said, I do. He said, you think it's better than most? I said, I do. He said, you think it's impeccable? I couldn't call it that. Because impeccable is an internal thought, right? There's no comparison involved in impeccable. He said, maybe you should stick around and learn how to do that. So for 18 months, I learned impeccable. It was one of the best lessons I've ever had. So it elevates my level of performance with that kind of blanket over top of it. Okay? That's the kind of conversation I have myself between Christmas and New Year's. What do I need to elevate? What don't I know? Those times that I reinvented my business, it came out of that conversation. Right? Something's not working. Why isn't it working? What do I need to do? And generally it's me. It's not like I gotta go yell at somebody or I gotta fix somebody else. It's generally me. I'm in the way. Okay? My practice has grown, had 2 growth spurts. One after the first time I took the Landmark Forum. And just recently I took it again, and what do you know? My business has tripled. Okay? I got myself out of the way. I had some new awareness that I didn't have before. And I challenge myself. Okay? And I meet with people that challenge me too. You know, the team that I put together, we get in each other's face. I was sitting in a meeting and one of my associates was being quiet. And I stopped the meeting and I said, do you think you're not important? Now, I don't know the last time you had a business meeting that asked that question, but that's the questions we ask. And he said, you know what? I do. I said, that's in your head. That's not what I do. Okay? So it's that kind of confronting kind of conversation, okay, that you need to have. Now, since you're every position in your company, you need to talk to yourself a lot. Right? It really takes that. Right? Listen, for probably 10 years of my practice, I was a solopreneur. I was happy to be that. Every once in a while I would bring somebody in and I had an admin person and I've had those people. But I didn't have a whole team of people delivering service. I've gone through kind of evolutions each time I changed my business. At one time, I probably had 35 people delivering service. Okay? And I re-engineered. One of the questions I asked is, am I having fun? Like, do I really like doing it? Because sometimes we jump in thinking it's going to be terrific, and we go, ugh. Right? Now what do I do? I'm stuck. Right? Definitely not stuck. Okay? A couple things. How to build and grow a consulting practice you talked about.
Yep.
This has been one of the most rewarding workshops I've done. I did it 2 years ago. And I wish I could call it something other than how to build and grow a consulting practice. So it's really about how to build and grow a business. Okay? And it's very specific conversations and training. It's a workshop. There's a handout. You work through problems. But I give you 33 years of mistakes. That's what I really do. It's one of the most fun things I've ever assembled because it was very cathartic. Like, where did I screw this up and what did I learn from that and that kind of stuff. Some of the conversations we have is how to talk about money. okay? It's always hard, right? We never want to talk about it, right? I'm giving it away, I'm giving my time away, all that kind of stuff, right? That comes up in our head. But there's a real way to talk about it, okay? How many here have people that owe them money? Oh, good job. Okay, not too many, right? So there's always the question, what do I do when someone owes me money? Right? We talk about it in this conference, okay? And what people want to do is send an email. Hey, listen, you owe me $1,500. When are you going to be able to pay? Right? We want to do that as if they forgot that they owed us $1,500. Okay? I have never not been paid for service, ever. But some people are slow, right? That does happen, right? Here's the mail message I send out. Listen, what is your name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca owes me $1,000. She knows she owes me $1,000. By the way, when I first engaged with Rebecca, I said to her, there are only 2 ways you can respond to an invoice from me. Pay it or call me. So I talked to Rebecca up front about how we're going to relate over an invoice. So she already knows, okay? But let's imagine I didn't. So Rebecca owes me $1,000. She got an invoice. She didn't pay it. Okay? We could be a little slick. Rebecca, maybe this got lost in your email. Right? We do that, right? We resend it, right? We look coy about it, like email didn't work that day, right? But here's what I do. I send an email to Rebecca and I say, Rebecca, I was thinking about this for your business, and I want you to consider blah, 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 blah. Now, you know what Rebecca does? She emails me back, Mark, I'm sorry, I'll pay you. I didn't even ask about the money. I'm sorry, I'll pay you as soon as I can. Or I'm going to pay you by Tuesday. I don't have to remind her she owes me the money. But we want to tell her. We want to be right. Correct? Right? So there's a strategy on how to handle the business of your business. That's what we talk about for 3 hours. Okay? For those of you that don't have a consulting business and would like to, you can learn about that. I actually had someone sit in my workshop who was taking very diligent notes, who had a service to provide people that were unemployed an online presence, right? So I'm wondering why he's there. He calls me up 4 months later, I want you to teach people that are unemployed how to do consulting between jobs. It's like, oh, look how smart that was, right? So that was like an ingenious way to apply it, yes? So come to the workshop, it's the 15th. Also, afterwards, there's a business networking thing, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's from 3 to 6 and then from 6 to 7:30, I think.
Yep.
There will be a bunch of people that aren't in the conference
Nearby.
that will also go to a networking event.
Yeah, it's nearby.
Yeah, it's real close by.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I attended 2 years ago in December, and it was awesome. I
Good.
got a lot out of it. One of the things, right, that comes to memory that I've been using a lot is how you had us come up with 3 different packages
Yeah.
that you're really
Right,
putting
right,
for that
right.
center one.
Yeah, yeah. So we are going to redo that piece. Everyone really loved it. So it's really about how to package your pricing. And there's an item called the stupid choice. It's not really called I call it the stupid choice. That you add into your offering. It's a really cool kind of concept. So it's really great. One of the things we're gonna redo some of the most enjoyable parts, I guess. And then we're gonna add the next phase, which is now that I'm being paid for my time, how do I scale my business so that I stop being paid for my time? So that's being added to the end of that. Okay. But thanks for coming 2 years ago. Right. This is my email address. If you would like a copy of the slides, you can email me. Okay?
Yeah, and I'll make that and a video also available through our Facebook page.
Good. Oh, I'm sorry. I was moving around, wasn't I, Andre?
Not a problem.
It's okay. Okay, got it.
I've got your voice.
Okay, I got you. I got it. All right. I want to remind you about one more thing before I say thanks. And that is, you need to go see Meg in the back. I think we have some flyers for the workshop, yes?
Yep.
And she can share with you, Meg, what are the dates of the introduction?
This tomorrow at 2.
So at 2 o'clock tomorrow,
Saturday, 10:30.
Saturday at 10:30,
There's one Monday at 6:30.
Monday at 6:30.
And
She has all the dates. You need to go learn about it. Andre actually came to Tampa to learn about it.
Yep.
And called me to tell me that he wanted to register. So he's actually going to be in the forum in November. Okay? So you're going to have a new and engaged Andre next event. Any questions for me?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, thank you. Yes.
What was your 8-month program that took you out of building your business?
It was an 8-month assignment. It wasn't a program. Yeah, I had a client assignment. From time to time, I take an assignment. It has to, the stars have to line up, and it really puts me. I was at the client probably 30 hours a week, which means I have to shift a lot of clients around to try to service them. So I didn't have any time to do any growth or network